like to recognize Congressman Burlison for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for hosting this wonderful, very important committee meeting. Mr. Brubeck, most construction workers do not belong to a union. I think the statistics are something in the area of only close to 11% are members of a labor union. In fact, it's only getting smaller. Fewer and fewer people are choosing to be members of a labor union. Could you expand on how the requirement will pressure contractors to reverse course and then unionize despite the fact that their employees may not want to be a member of a union?
Yeah, so typical PLAs say that you have to get most or all of your employees from a union hiring hall and follow union work rules and pay into union pension and benefit programs. And so what that does is that forces contractors to be unable to use their existing employees. Any of their own employees they're able to use, they have to send to the union hiring hall, or there's some sort of arrangement where they're allowed to work on. In our industry, if you want to join a union, you can just go down to the local union hiring hall and join. The barriers to unionization are very low. What we have here is the government forcing this on contractors in order to get taxpayer-funded construction contracts, and that's a problem. We heard earlier about voluntary PLAs, contractors entering into them voluntarily without undue coercive pressure, but we're talking about government-mandated PLAs. That's the issue here. That's what this executive order does. That's what all the Biden administration policies do. They try to force contractors to bargain with unions and sign a union agreement as a condition of winning a taxpayer-funded construction contract. That increases costs, that reduces competition, and that reduces the number of workers that are able to bid on these projects when we have a skilled labor shortage of 500,000 people.
And I'm glad you said that it reduces, that it increases costs and it reduces competition. I can't see how anyone with a straight face can say that requiring a project labor agreement is somehow going to reduce costs and give more options.
Well, in theory, it might reduce costs when your only option is a unionized contractor base, but that's not the case anywhere in this country. There's plenty of competition from non-union contractors. In my experience, PLAs are voluntarily entered into by contractors without government coercion because it provides them some sort of exemptions from problematic terms and collective bargaining agreements that make them less efficient and more expensive. So we're talking about government-mandated PLAs, not voluntary PLAs.
Let's also talk about the exemptions, the supposed exemptions to the PLA requirements. The OMB memo implementing the new rule mentions a process for federal agencies to follow in order to secure an exemption or exception to the Biden administration's new blanket PLA policy. Are you aware of any federal agencies who have successfully sought an exemption or an exception?
No, sir, I'm not.
There's no reports. In fact, I think you have from your own personal observation, but yet when you go, and also when you go to the federal government's own website, it does not list any agencies receiving an exception. So it's clearly the exception policy is a joke. Would it be safe to say that the new rule is reducing competition? That it's reducing the number of applicants for these jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. I hear both from contracting officers in federal agencies and our own members who say they'd want to pursue these contracts, but they can't because of the PLA requirement on there. I'm aware of a number of projects where they've already had a reduction in bidders who were pre-qualified for phase 1 of the solicitation, and they dropped out the minute the PLA was added during phase 2 of the solicitation. So there's going to be real-world examples coming out, and projects are going to have to be rebid, and that's going to delay more construction projects that we all need.
I also think there's another aspect to it. You know, just this week, in a hearing, we learned that the United Auto Workers Union was protesting on a college campus to make sure that they had the rights to be basically anti-Semitic in their protests. I can't imagine how someone who just wants to work, just wants to be employed, is now going to have to pay dues to something that's getting politically involved in something they may totally disagree with.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the reasons why a lot of construction workers and contractors decide not to affiliate with unions, and that's their choice. They want to make sure that they can deliver projects on time and on budget.
And before my time expires, I just want to ask, what can Congress do? I know that we have Resolution 132, sponsored by the Higgins from Louisiana. What bills are on your radar that would help remedy this?
Yeah, Chairman Comer's got an excellent bill called the Fair and Open Competition Act that restricts government-mandated PLAs on federal and federally assisted projects, and Congressman Higgins has a CRA resolution striking down the Biden administration policy.
Thank you.
All right, I would like to recognize Mr. Gosar for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since January 2021, the Biden administration has implemented